I think.
So we watched Mare of Easton, and I always say it wrong. I always want to say it's like East Town or something like that. But we watched Mare of Easttown episode 3, which was called Enter Number Two. Um,
Which was, do you think that was Suspect? Is that Enter the Second Suspect?
I don't know, and we'll find when we do future ones, I'm not always tying into what the title is supposed to mean. And to be perfectly honest, it's something related to that, or
It kills me. Titles always get me. I don't
it
know.
kind of like, yeah, I just kept looking at it, but we kind of at the end of episode 2 kind of left off with that really crazy evening where Erin, the dead girl that we see in the beginning, her father takes Dylan out into the woods and shoots him. And
Mhm.
what we find out with this episode is that Dylan is actually alive and possibly paralyzed.
Yeah.
Was
And
that the
then,
first time we saw his parents? I didn't remember his
no,
parents.
he had walked out of the house. He had left. The parents were kind of sitting there and they're like, "Where are you going?" Kind of after the whole, you know, Aaron's death.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like it was the first time I saw them, or they looked younger than I expected them to. So it was, but so we sort of don't know what the outcome is. He's conscious, and we are led to believe that he may never walk again. Um, and then we kind of go back to the case of Aaron again, and we find out that they're at the crime scene, or they're at the autopsy or the morgue or whatever, and they've discovered that she's missing a fingertip. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a fingertip that
They
she
said it was shot off.
shot off, which is strange to me, and
Mm-hmm.
that she didn't. There were no signs that she had been raped.
Right.
I think what we found with the autopsy. It kind of threw me that I didn't know that she was missing a finger until episodes 3. Like that's the type of thing that I thought when they found her initially that somebody would have said that she was missing a finger.
Yeah, they never came up until that, it's like, what about her finger at the morgue? That was really strange.
And I don't know if it's because the time is compressed. These days are running right next to each other. It would just, I don't know if much time had passed. It just seemed like a lot of time had passed to not have ever talked about her finger being gone.
I know. I think it's because of all the filler. I call it filler because at first I found it captivating, but now I'm kind of like, oh, like let's get back to the mystery, like the stuff about the grandson and the custody stuff and all of that seems to be like kind of in the girlfriend's relationship with the disc jockey, I guess she is, or something, talk show host. I mean, all of that kind of stuff is, I find it a little bit confusing. I mean, it's interesting, but I kind of find it kind of takes it.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and I think when you're trying to, it's a whodunit, and I know my mind goes to this place of what am I supposed to be reading into every one of these little vignettes that we have, like the girl at the DJ thing where she's going to be performing, or I'm constantly thinking, why am I seeing this?
And
I really don't need
I
to.
want to believe that it's all going to tie together because if it doesn't, I'll be really irritated if nothing ties in there because it's just maybe they just want some ordinary life of this, Pennsylvania town, these townspeople, but they've got to like, why fill us with all this stuff?
Yeah, no, I wasn't quite getting that. And same thing in the episode, her friend Lori comes to visit her with this news that we heard in episode 2
Mm-hmm.
that it's possibly it is her husband Frank,
Right.
that, her Aaron's best friend is kind of disclosed that Dylan wasn't the father and she thinks it might be Frank. So that leads into that scene where she kind of barges into the trivial pursuit that they're playing.
Trivial Pursuit too, a little retro game for these people, but
Well, yeah, so I don't know what you thought about that, but I just, it was one of those times where I thought to myself, she made me really angry that she did that.
right. I mean, and this is a guy that's just like newly engaged and everything like that, and it's almost like, yeah, like call him or something. I don't know. It
But
seems,
yeah,
it
she
seems,
kind of has a big scene with his family and the daughter and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was hugely inappropriate. I still don't get the dynamic between her and the ex-husband. Um,
and for being kind of like a low key, don't want a lot of attention, she causes a lot of drama.
yes, like she acts and doesn't think oftentimes. I think
Right.
she's really quick to react or to act.
Right.
But
And I kind of think like, if you're looking to like psychologically, dissect any of these characters, her son had all of these issues and she's worried about it being hereditary to the grandson. But like, what about her? Like she has some definite stuff going on. Like I kind of think of maybe she has some kind of affliction.
yeah, and it is embarrassing, and he's got the wife, and it's the fiance, and that's her son that's playing Trivial Pursuit, and his girlfriend, right? He was there visiting the son.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
but yeah, that kind of threw me. But she convinces him to do to do the
Paternity test.
fraternity test, and I think what makes her so interesting is because she isn't polished and she isn't that, is so like even when she comes into the station the next morning and his fiance is sitting out in the back and he's whatever, she says a good morning. But I really was like, why wouldn't she have sat down next to his fiance and apologized or said, I'm sorry that delivery came. Like I just thought it was so rude the way she just kind of like,
Yeah, she
yeah.
definitely is brazen, or I don't know, just not very well, like we don't know about her past, but we know little tidbits. Like we know that um she was in the movie the first time that the sister knew her brother was different was when they were sitting in the Harry Potter movie, and the brother was snorting and stuff, and when the kids turned around and said that he was weird, they didn't even make it through the trailer because the mom got up and left. So she's obviously, but she's so good with the grandson, so it does take me, it does make me think that she's always been a bit selfish, possibly, easily embarrassed.
Yeah, and that was the other thing, the documentary that the sister is filming. It's like I hope it means something because I didn't necessarily need that either. If later on down, so and it comes up in this episode that the inevitability of her grandson's mother wanting him back full time is really starting to ramp up at
Mm-hmm.
this point. And
Jean Smart was right, Mama.
yeah, no, and again, it's one of those things where I'm a little lost oftentimes, and I can't quite figure something out. But um, so she makes another weird judgment call, and I couldn't figure out. There's a point where she goes into an evidence room and she opens up this box of something that has cash in it, and you know
That was the drugs that she grabbed and planted in the.
but it took me a while to figure that out. I mean, I assumed eventually, I thought, here we go, she's going to start taking drugs, or we're going to find out that she's self-medicating. But it didn't dawn on me that, where we were going with that.
Yeah, that
What
was.
else in the episode stood out to you? That was something that stood out to me, those over the
Um,
heroin.
well, the whole part of them finding out that the body, that she wasn't killed in the woods, that she was killed at the park, and dumped at the thing, the fact that she did have the bicycle, that there was, there was some kind of, there's something else to look for there. That kind of freaked me out a little bit. I
And
guess that was it.
the deacon kind of comes into play now.
Oh, he does, doesn't he? They visit the deacon at that point. They don't find out much about him except that her phone had his number on it.
Yeah, it was her last call was to him.
Okay.
And they start sniffing around, him as a suspect possibly, and it starts to come up that he's been reassigned from another
Parish.
location,
Yeah.
parish, yeah. So all of that starts to brew out, but then it seems as though he had Aaron's bike for some reason because they were really concerned that they couldn't find her bike because they knew that she had a bike with her.
Right.
And we get that scene where the deacon dumps the bike.
Yeah. And then we're
Oh,
like, oh,
yeah, I'm feeling so much like he's a red herring that I was
there's
even
so
annoyed.
many red herrings. There
Yeah,
was
I was
another
annoyed with
red
the bike
herring.
being dumped. I was just like, oh God, what's
Yeah, it's
this?
such a big boom, the bike stumped. Are we kind of melding now into episode 4? Do you think?
You tell me, am I?
Can we? Are we starting to like kind of meld in? Wasn't that the end of episode?
3, he dumps the bike.
Okay. And
And
she loses the case. Is that the one that she loses she has to turn in her badge and everything too?
yeah, and at the end, you realize that the weird thing that she took out of the evidence box was the heroin. And, she's planted that somehow in her grandson's mother's car. And somehow this comes up, and, her lieutenant, he comes to visit her because he recognized the cartoon that was on the heroin packet as part of a drug thing that they'd done, and somehow the evidence box, she had reduced the number of heroin the very same day. So I thought it was very I like the dramatics of her being on administrative leave in the middle of this downward spiral, but I didn't think that planting the heroin and the reducing the evidence by 2 pieces of heroin the very same day that it all happened was a very strategic way to go about it.
And you think of her as being smart, supposedly, but she does do a lot of really drastic things that don't make her look very smart. She's dramatic and she's hasty and messy. And maybe that's because she's losing her shit a little bit. I don't know.
So that was our take on episode 3. We're all over the place. It's still very interesting to me. So I'm never not
Yes.
interested. The acting is so good.
The acting is incredible, even in its filler stuff. It's
Yes.
incredible. I'm just like, what's going on? Like I'm like cut to the chase, kind of anxious, I guess.
Yeah, no. So we will be back with episode 4.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.